Hey guys, welcome back from the weekend. I hope it was a great weekend for you. Today we're going to be doing lesson 8 here in unit 1, and believe it or not, this is the last unit or the last lesson that we'll do in part 1 of unit 1. So tomorrow we'll be beginning weighted voting, which is the second part, and a whole different type of voting system than what we've been discussing up to this point. So that's why it's considered part 2. It's kind of a separate topic. But we're going to finish up this part 1 with one last voting technique called approval voting. All right, and this one is very different from the other ones that we've done so far, in that you don't actually have to rank any of the choices that you see. Instead, what you do is you look at the choices that are available and you say, these are the ones I wouldn't mind. All right, so if you can imagine, a presidential election and there's, six guys running or six people running for president of the United States, and you look at the list of the six people that are running and you say, well, I wouldn't mind if A, B, or C were president, but I definitely do not want D, E, and F to be president. So you just go through the ballot and you check off the ones that you're okay with and send it in. All right, that's how approval voting works. All right, so you just check off the ones that you're okay with, and everybody does that, and then you go tally up how many approvals each candidate got, and whoever gets the most approvals is the winner. All right, so we'll take a look at an example here. So let's say a group of friends is trying to decide upon a movie to watch. Well, the three choices provided, and these are some pretty old movies that they have here in the example. So you might not even remember these, but they're all really good movies. So if you haven't seen them, you should go check them out. Especially Titanic. I highly recommend that one. Really good movie. Anyways, so you would look at the three movie choices here, Titanic, Scream, or The Matrix, and you would go through and you would just put an X next to the ones that you approve here. So Bob approved of Scream and The Matrix. He did not want to go see Titanic, so he did not put an X next to Titanic. But he wouldn't mind seeing Scream or The Matrix. Either one he would be happy with. All right. So then Anne did the same thing, except she wanted to see either Titanic or The Matrix. She simply did not want to see Scream. Maybe she's not into scary movies. All right. So she did not put an X there. Now each person does this. They go through and they just put an X next to the ones that they approve of, and you just go through across each row here, and you tally up how many approvals each movie got. So Titanic got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 approvals, right? So we would say Titanic received 5 approvals, and we go through and count them up for Scream. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Scream got 6 approvals, and The Matrix got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, 7 approvals for The Matrix, which I hear they're doing a remake for. Hopefully, we'll see if that happens. But The Matrix received 7 approvals. So if we were to tally up the approvals and try and find one that we could all be happy with, the one that would make the most people happy here would be The Matrix. So The Matrix is what we would call the approval winner. Okay. So let's do this. Try it now here. Let's see if we can do one. All right, so we've got our mathematicians again deciding on a conference from earlier. We've seen this example before. We ran it with several different voting systems, so we're going to try it with approval voting this time. So we're going to go through and count up how many approvals Seattle has. Right, so we've got 30, 40, 55, and 60 approvals for Seattle. So I just went through. Remember, there's 30 in this column, 10 in this column, 15, right? So this X actually represents 30 approvals, right? So we got 30. This was 10 approvals, 15 approvals, and then 5 approvals. These 20 and these 15 did not approve of Seattle, nor did these 5. So just go to the columns with the X in it and tally them up. Seattle got 60. All right, so we're going to do the same thing for Tacoma. Okay, so Tacoma got 30. Plus these 15, that's 45, plus another 20, that's 65, 80, 85 approvals for Tacoma. All right, now Puyallup here got 10 and 20, that's 30, 30 and 15, that's 45, so we got 50 for Puyallup. If you are from that city, I don't know if I'm saying that right, so I am horribly sorry if I'm mispronouncing your hometown. All right, so Puyallup got, hold on, now I lost track, 10, 30, 45, 50. 50 approval votes for Puyallup. All right, and then Olympia got 15, 30, 35. We got 35 approval votes. So it looks like Tacoma is the winner. Okay, Tacoma wins. So they would have their conference in Tacoma. That's how approval voting works. Now, with any voting system that we've discussed so far, it's always worth it to take a minute and decide, well, what could go wrong with approval voting. I think just sitting here on this try it now problem they gave us, if we recall from our previous lesson, that Tacoma, when we did the preference ballot, had a majority of the first place votes. Seattle had a majority of the first place votes, but if we look here at the approval voting, Tacoma won. And that's exactly what the problem is with the approval voting, is that you could have a majority of people that prefer a particular location, and then an approval vote could trump that majority. So if we look at this example here, it asks, is there a majority winner? And so we go through and we say, well, A got 80 of the first place votes, and there was 100 votes. So we would say, yes, A did. All right, so A is a majority winner. And then it says, well, let's turn this preference ballot. This is something they do very commonly. If they decide to go to an approval vote, you can still do a preference ballot where you rank the candidates, and what they'll say is, well, your top two choices, those are going to be the ones that you approve of, and the one at the bottom of the list is the one you don't approve of. So in this particular schedule right here, A and B would be approved, but C would not. All right, so if I'm tallying up approval votes using that kind of a method, right, then we would say, well, A was preferred by 80 people, right, because A didn't end up in the top two for these 20 votes here in the last two columns. So they got 80 approvals for being in first place in this first column. Now, if I go through and I tally up B's approvals, B is in the top two for all three columns. So B would get 100 approvals. And then C would only get 20 approvals. And in this scenario, if we went with an approval vote using that type of method, B wins, even though A had a majority. So it violates that majority fairness criterion that we had discussed earlier. All right, so that's it. That's one of the known issues with approval voting. The other issue is that it could tie. So there's always the possibility of a tie with this voting method, which could run into issues later. It's just, if you have a voting method that does end in a tie, you got to have a contingency plan. You got to know what you're going to do in the case of a tie. So maybe if you have two candidates that tie, you eliminate the rest and do a revote. Or maybe you do a runoff, or maybe you compound it, use a multi-stage voting system where maybe we're going to start off with a board account. If the board account results in a tie, we'll take the two top people who got the tie and then do a Condorcet type situation where we just pit them head to head. Okay, so ties are always able to be fixed as long as you have a contingency plan in place at the end. All right, guys, that is it for today's lesson. Kind of short, but that's it. If you look through the rest of the notes, I printed these out for you. I included them. I don't know if they're valuable to you or not, but they're just extra exercise problems for you if you feel like you need extra practice, or if you just want, the old-fashioned textbook problems right out of the textbook. That's what these are. So you can just work those out on paper. If you need answers to any of them, I think I have an answer key somewhere, so you can always ask and see what the answers are to those problems down there in the exercises. All right, guys, that's it. Give the daily practice problems a try. Have a great day.